the game really has a lot of offensive options and choices, from the motion offenses to the pick and roll control to the off-ball movement. Wrapping up the offensive discussion real quickly, this is another feature that's in NBA Live 10 as well, is I believe it's called a size-up move, and I believe on PS3 it's the right trigger, or R2, excuse me, and then on 360 it's the right trigger. Can you talk about that real quickly, how that works exactly? I know I try to use it, and I just feel like I'm not utilizing it correctly.
The way it works is you pull the trigger, or the R2, and it will put your player with the ball into the size-up, which is, like a long one-off dribbling animation that gets you ready for an isolation type of play. Now, there's a couple things you can do with that. One is when you're in the size-up, if you flick up, you'll do sort of an attacking sort of move out of the size-up that ends with a crossover. So you attack and then crossover that you can sort of, when you bring the ball back and cross back, you can shoot out of that, or you can cross out of it again and go forward. The down is sort of like the retreat. So you're sizing up, you flick down. If he's playing up tight on you, you can retreat from him to get the pressure off you. The way to really make size up work effectively for you is just to think of it as it's a way to sort of launch into dribble moves, crossovers out of that you can't necessarily do from not being in a size up. So you put yourself in the size up, and then with the left stick, you pick a direction, right or left, based on how the defense is playing you in reaction to your size up. Doing that blends you out of the size up animation into a powerful crossover or go move that, like I said, is a little different than if you weren't sizing the player up. So you get a different opportunity to blow by him out of the size up situation that you create. So there's a lot of different ways to use it. I really like sizing people up and flicking up on the right stick to help create that space to shoot that jumper. And then when they do start creeping up on that after they see me pull back, is crossing out of that again to really make a hard drive at the hoop. So it's sort of kind of like a launching pad, for lack of a better term, if you use it correctly. If you use it too much, you're putting yourself at risk for turning the ball over. That's probably the best way to explain how to use it.
With all these options on the offensive side, what are some of the tips that you can give on the defensive side to help level this out a little bit?
There's a couple, but the biggest ones for me are just knowing who you're playing, like knowing who has the ball. So if it's a guy who's sizing you up and he can't shoot, you play off him. If he's a guy who's sizing you up and he's looking to shoot, you'll play him differently. So that's one, is knowing your opponent. Two, just mechanics-wise, is just, and I know some people don't use this that much, but the defensive assist, I find that using that really helps me keep track of my check in transition or when things get muddled up in big play or a rebound and they kick it back out after getting an offensive board. It's just helping. I don't use it so much as to guard on-ball guys, but just to keep track of where my guy's at when stuff gets confusing and not letting someone get to the basket unguarded. The AI is a lot better this year, and they'll find that guy if you leave him open. So, yeah, it's a combination of knowing who you're guarding and putting yourself in position to stop them, as well as, just selecting your defense. You want to pick the right defense for your opponent, and there's a lot of options that you can do to switch things up, to throw them off, and try to take them out of their strengths.
What do you run most defensively? What's your favorite sets to run?
I like just running straight up man press and man in the half court. It's the most basic, and I like double teaming really quickly and in certain situations, and doing that out of a man defense seems to me a little bit faster sometimes. And I also really like man just because things are very clear as who is to be guarding who, and I just like being able to have nice, quick, responsive double teams and not get guys sort of spread out all over the floor without as much control over them in a zone.
Let's get on to your baby, the big item you helped work on, being a producer for NCAA Basketball 10, focusing on presentation. Mm-hmm. How much of a challenge was it to get all of the ESPN and CBS broadcast integration into the game?
It was a pretty big challenge, but it was also pretty fun. As much work and as much pressure was on us this year to deliver those two packages, it was a lot of fun just because I knew that it was going to be worth it, because I knew people wanted this in the game. It was going to be worth it. It was going to change the way that people viewed our game. So with that being said, the biggest challenges were just building all of that art. I had nothing to do with that. But with regards to, actually building it and integrating it, that was all on our screen artists and engineers and renderers and all of them. So a big shout out to them, because that was all their hard work. But just the fact that each year we sort of update an EA package for our broadcast package, and this year we built 2 new ones from complete scratch. So just the amount of volume and just building all that art was very challenging, as well as the audio, doing a whole new broadcast team again from scratch, in addition to adding on to Dick and Brad. We had to do Gus and Bill from scratch, get them, at a comparable level so they're not being outshined by the ESPN team, and I think we did a really good job at that. Those 2 guys they're my 2 favorite announcers of all time. They sound amazing. I love Dick and Brad, but Gus and Bill were a really nice addition this year. They were built for college basketball announcing. So that was another big challenge, was just getting the audio up to par and shining like we know those 2 guys can. We had contacts at ESPN and CBS that helped us along the way with getting us source art and animations and sound effects and reference and, approving what we were doing along the way. So we weren't totally on our own in terms of that type of development. We had a lot of good help from both ESPN and CBS Sports. So that definitely made things a lot easier. So we're very lucky for that. But it was a big undertaking just because it was double the amount of work from scratch, but it was worth it. And I think just from reading the message boards and seeing people's reactions to those first couple of videos and now to the full game, now that they get to interact and experience these packages in game in their hands, it was definitely worth it. And I'm glad we were able to get it done this year, people.
I think what really sets it off is the dynamic updates where you get the updated top 25. So then you can go in throughout the year, throughout the season particularly, and play the big matchup of the week. And it looks like you are playing it at that time with the updated team rankings on the score overlay at the bottom. It's such a minor thing, yet at the same time adds so much in there. When you added this in, was there ever a point where you and the team thought, boy, we bit off a lot here? Was it ever more than you originally expected or planned it to be?
When we're planning this stuff out and trying to figure out what we're going to do, we sort of kind of cut all that stuff that we can't chew off at the beginning, or we try to do our best so that we don't get down a path and find out we don't have enough time to finish it. At the beginning, we had some pretty grandiose ideas, like every year in pre-production about what we wanted to do and accomplish with these 2 packages. But, as we plan things out and see what we're going to be able to accomplish in the year based on our capacity, we plan for that. So we never were in a situation where we felt like we couldn't deliver what we set out to just because of how we planned at the beginning. So I think you sort of see that in the amount of polish that is there with things that we did put in the game. And I think that people really saw that level of polish in the stuff that was in the game, and that just doesn't create any weak spots for people to focus on. Everything in there is polished and tuned to the best we could possibly do.